Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late. I had trouble getting my streaming service going. Good evening. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live, Life in Focus. So we are 8 minutes late. So I'll go over 8 minutes. We're at 20 minutes. So welcome. It's good to have you tonight. I'm sorry last week did not work. My streaming service was not working last week. But announcement tonight, I want to tell you that starting Thursday night at 6 o'clock in Bonham, Texas, at the First United Bank, in the Mayow Room, I'll be there, 6 o'clock. We're going to start a new cycle of PTSD classes for veterans, for those that have PTSD, combat veterans, or any type of veteran that wants to come and or their family that wants to come with them. So that's up to the veteran about your family. We'll also be serving dinner that night. It'll last from 6 to 8 o'clock, and I look forward to seeing you there. We graduated a class about a month ago, 6 guys, 6 people, and it was very successful. And I believe some of those that went through the last class will be there to welcome you, so we look forward to seeing you Thursday night at 6 p.m. in Bonham, Texas at the First United Bank. Okay, let's get going here. Here's our theme song.
Lift the load from my shoulders, shake the chains from my heart. Let the crushed and silent voice within declare a new start. Song of renewal deep in my heart, sung in the daylight, sung in the dark. Troubles in this life weigh on my mind, but I live stronger, stronger to leave them behind. Living doesn't last forever. I wanna live while I'm here. Recovery's on the way, breathing the wonder. Today's not forever. Dream big, see clear. Life is now or never. One single life, one single love, one single voice I'm flying above. Over the doubts and fears, over the wasted years, over the mountains that get in my way. This chance won't see tomorrow. I gotta live it today. Living doesn't last forever. I wanna live while I'm here. Recovery's on the way, breathing the wonder. Today is not forever. Dream big, see clear. Life is now or never. Now or never.
All right, here we're going to go. We're going to start a new series. We're going to start a new series tonight called First Principles. It's about getting stuff to the basic denominator. To set this up, Elon Musk, if you know anything about Elon Musk, he decided he wanted to, when he was a child, he read a lot of different comic books and science fiction. And he decided when he was a young child, a young man, that he wanted to colonize Mars. So he had that dream, and he grew up, and he's the one that started PayPal and those things, and sold that. And when he sold that, he made a lot of money, and he started Tesla and SpaceX. And he started with SpaceX. He went to Russia and tried to buy a couple of ICBM missiles from them, without the nuclear warheads, of course. And they thought he was kind of a little bit weird, and so they wouldn't sell him one. So he came back to the United States, and he tried to get some rockets, and he couldn't buy any rockets. So he finally decided that he would make his own rockets. He would build his own rockets. And so he started researching it, read a lot of books, met with a lot of people, did a lot of research, and he come up with the cost of $65 million to build a rocket. Well, that was kind of above his pay grade a little bit, so he decided that he would build a rocket from scratch. And first principles means that you don't incrementally approve something that somebody has already done. You don't think outside the box, you think without the box. So he contemplated and researched and decided what the raw materials he was needing to build a rocket. And there was copper, and there was metal, and there was fuel, and there was all those different things. And he had to have a launch pad, and he had to have land and all those different things to build it. So he got together all the raw materials he would need and calculated the cost, and the cost of those raw materials came to about, I believe, somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. So that's what the raw materials cost to build a rocket, the materials. And then he decided he would have to build one. He had to build a prototype and do those things and design it and build engines and all those different things. And so he started doing that. And he, with all the raw materials and with his design, he was able to make a rocket at the 10th of the cost of $65 million, which is about $6.57 million, $10 million, somewhere in that range, instead of $65 million. So he built a rocket, put it on the launching pad, and fired it off. And it blew up. Didn't work. So he built another rocket, put it on the launching pad, and lit it off, and it blew up. So he built another rocket. And all the time learning from his mistakes, or not mistakes necessarily, but things that he didn't take into account in building a rocket. And he learned what was causing the defects and what was causing the rockets to not be successful. So the third one also blew up. He had enough money left to build one more rocket. And if it didn't work, he was out of it. Didn't have any more money left. He even got to the point where he invested all the money he had left in building rockets and building electric cars. And he even had to borrow money to eat on from his friends and sleep at their houses. Didn't even have enough money to have his own house. So the fourth rocket he put on the launching pad and fired it off, and boom, it went away and was successful. And that put him on the way with SpaceX. And since then, he's figured out how to land rockets and reuse them instead of just having a rocket go away and fall in the ocean, and you have to start from scratch. So he's done that. He's put satellites in the space. He's doing a lot of different things, but he boiled it down to first principles. So that's what I want to talk to you about tonight is first principles. Now, the first principles of all of our existence is, we say, body, soul, and spirit. The body is what houses our soul. It's God's spirit inhabits us and in our soul. When God created Adam in the beginning, it said God made Adam in his own likeness and his own image. And he made him out of the dust of the earth. He mixed some water together and some clay. I don't know how he did it exactly. But God didn't just speak Adam into existence. He actually made him with his hands, as I understand it. So if you're looking at this balloon tonight, I'm going to say that represents our soul. So here's Adam, I'm going to call him a mud man, laying on the ground, formed fully, with his nose and eyes and all that kind of stuff, but he was not alive. He was just like a doll. He was like a mud man. How many's ever been had a sand pile and made stuff out of took a bucket and made a farm in that bucket and turned it upside down? And then some kids were very gifted and they would make different things out of the sand and out of the mud and out of clay. But that's what they were. They were mud men, mud images. And that's what God had. So God breathed into Adam, giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and Adam became a living soul. Instead of a deflated being that he was without any life, God blew into his nostrils and he became a living soul, and God's breath expanded in Adam and he became a living soul. I do not know whether Adam was just made out of mud until God breathed into him, and then his heart started work. Then his heart became and lungs and all the organ and blood and all that. I don't know, but I believe, I have no basis for this. It's my own theory. I believe that his soul was deflated, and then God inflated his soul and dwelt inside of Adam. And if you know the story, Adam and Eve eat of the tree that God said don't do. And their soul was deflated again. And they were put out of the Garden of Eden, out of that close fellowship with God. So, what I want to talk about tonight is the first principles of overcoming mental health issues and substance abuse. Okay. So what are the first principles that we have? So when we're born, we're body, soul, and spirit. We're inflated. As we go through life, sometimes we catch a lot of different things in our lives, and our soul becomes deflated. Get it out in a minute. Deflated. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that tonight. There is a lady, she wrote a book called The Voices in My Head, and her name is Eleanor Longden, and she was born several years ago. She's from UK or England, however you want to call it. And so she was sexually abused when she was a child, but she made her way on. She went through school, she went through high school, and she was doing okay. And she goes off to college, and her first year, I believe, was her freshman year was okay, but in between the freshman year and her sophomore year in college, she began to hear voices. And at first they were kind of muted voices, but they became louder and louder and louder, and her soul was deflated. And she heard children's voices, children crying. She heard teenage voices. She heard there was adult voices, but there was one voice in particular that when he started talking, he was very mean, very cruel, said a lot of harsh things, and totally destroyed her life. When he started talking, everybody else shut up. So her soul became totally deflated. All this stuff in her, and it was destroying her life. She ended up in a hospital for those that had issues. And the scene I want to start with tonight for Eleanor was laying in a room without furniture, laying in the middle of the floor in a fetus position, totally filthy, all by herself in this room that was totally empty. I want you to think about that. And the voices. So, what are the first principles that assisted her in getting out of this situation? Fast forward to, because none of the psychiatrists, none of the counselors wanted to deal with Eleanor because she was such a tough case. Nobody knew how to help her. So the next scene I want you to see is Eleanor sitting in this psychiatrist's office in a chair across his desk from him, and all kind of curled up with her head down. And the psychiatrist, he didn't start counseling her. He didn't ask her her story, really. I'm sure he had it in all of her notes, but he just said, Eleanor, what do you want to be? So my question to you tonight, irregardless of all the issues you have in your life, whether you have mental health issues, substance abuse issues, relationship issues, whatever the issues you may have, my question to you is, what do you want to be? And she raised her head up and looked at him and said, nobody's ever asked me that before. And he said, okay, what do you want to be? And she said, I want to be a psychiatrist. And he said, okay, you can do that, and I will help you. So the first principles are the voices. She has to overcome the voices. I'm so sorry. My 20 minutes is up. We're going to have to go. This is going to be a several week series that we're going to do on first principles. So I want you to be sure and tune back in next week for the continuation of this first principles and hear the rest of the story. So it's time to go. God bless you. I'll see you next Tuesday at 6 p.m.